Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of Builders Talk. I've just realised my microphone's a little bit far away from me. Hopefully you can all hear me clearly. And this week, I wanted to talk to you about one of the phases in the custom construct code that is the growth phases throughout your business, and this one is the secure phase. So in the last few episodes, I discussed the 5 phases in building that defines where you may be in your business journey. These phases typically, define the common characteristics that would occur within the phase of your business's life cycle. And the first phase is the launch stage, which I refer to as the base stage, growth being the frame stage, secure being the enclosed stage, polishing the fixing stage, and liberate the final stage or the practical completion stage. And today I wanted to talk about businesses that may be in the secure phase and what you would mostly be experiencing and what type of processes or systems would be needed within this phase that would help a business to push through to the next phase in their business. Usually you come into the secure phase once you've graduated from the growth phase. And this is when you've usually hit probably your peak of growth that your current business structure can handle. You may have employed additional help on site, such as a site supervisor, but in this phase, this is where you start to realize what you've been doing is not necessarily working, and you need to secure your business to ensure it continues. You may be starting to feel a bit uncomfortable. The pressure is building as the workload just seems to be flowing in, and you are taking all the projects on that you can. You've probably been busting your butt to do all the work and make some money, but you don't seem to be, making as much money as you'd want to, and a lot of the jobs are becoming unprofitable. You may not necessarily be losing money, but you're not really making enough for the stress, the liability, and the risks that you take within your building business. So this stage is where we need to, batten down the hatches or nail things down as there is a storm brewing. And you may need to take some drastic action. And at this point, this is when you start to probably realize you, have not got enough experience to make all the things work on the business side of things. So you have a handle on obviously how to build homes. You've been doing it, from a young age, but you haven't really got a handle on how to keep the business side of things ticking over and working as effectively as you can. And you probably know that it can be improved and it needs to be improved because things are falling through the gaps. Money's not, you're not as profitable because you're putting on more staff or got more overheads in the business, but you're not necessarily savvy enough or have enough experience to understand how all the things work and put together, and put them together in a way that will bring you profitability or even more profitability within your business. So this is the point where a lot of builders start to look for outside support. And this could even, that's probably why you even maybe found this show, the Builders Talk, because you're searching on the internet potentially for help or support to help stop that bleeding in your business. And it's usually due to the previous growth explosion in the phase prior that you, may not have been keeping an eye on the finance side of things. You sort of get lulled into a false sense of security as you know you've got plenty of work flowing in. So meaning that you've got plenty of turnover, but turnover doesn't necessarily equate to profitability. So bills may be starting to stack up, but you run some figures to work out why you don't have enough cash to cover those bills. And you realize you aren't as profitable as you would have imagined. So some people aren't aware of the difference between cash flow and profit. And like I said, you can have cash flow without having profitability. You have plenty of cash coming in, but your expenses are more than the cash coming into your business. Now, this could be either your expenses literally are more than your income, or it could be that you're waiting for a progress payment to come in or to get to the next stage to send a progress claim to a client that you know that will then cover those expenses. So it is a balancing act due to the way that we are legislated to work. So meaning that we have to have done the work for the client prior to invoicing our client to get paid for the work. So this is why work in progress figures are really important, often referred to as WIP, if you've heard that name used. So we often have expenses sitting in our profit and loss statement, but we don't have the corresponding invoice for those expenses at any point in that time. So if you don't have enough checks and measures in place, you may realise it's too late to stem the blood loss. You start to see probably that this whole supervisor thing isn't working the way you imagined it would be. So the prevailing wisdom that is spruiked by a lot of business coaches in the industry is to get off the tools, put on a supervisor. You'll get time to work on your business, to grow it, and to free up your time as well. I have on several occasions spoken about the increase in turnover you need to just pay for a supervisor each year, and that is being an additional 1 million or more in turnover, depending on whether you live in a capital city or in a regional area. So you start to realise you're, I guess, still out on the job site and you're not in the office bringing in additional work to cover the additional overhead expense of that added supervisor. And this is, I guess, where you need to understand the difference between growing your business and scaling your business. So growing is where you are growing, you're turning over more income, but you're not necessarily making any additional profit. As your income goes up, so does your overhead expenses. So you don't really end up any better off. The key to, I guess, growing your business and I guess more growing your profit is to scale your business where you keep your overhead expenses the same. There might be a slight increase in your overheads, but the income increases as well. So if your income increases and you keep your overheads low, so say, for instance, you didn't have that supervisor, your overheads are still low and you bring in the work. So you've got to find a balance of, well, how do I bring in more work? How do I not add additional overheads with, paying for expensive supervisors, for example. So I guess at this stage, the jobs are starting to drag out longer. Your supervisor isn't as, I guess, well-versed at pushing your guys forward, or, that they're not as well, they're not used to basically, being more demanding. So they might not be demanding of your subbies or your trades or suppliers. And, they might just say, oh, I can't get to you till next week. And they just take that as, oh, well, they can't get to me till next week. There's not really, they haven't got the negotiating skills that you might have had with your suppliers or trades or even your employees. So you find that jobs are slowing down. So the cash flow isn't coming into your business as quickly, but the expenses, they just keep rolling in, So you're starting to see probably a lot more mistakes, and you're spending time and money trying to fix these mistakes that aren't necessarily picked up as quickly by someone else who's looking out for your business, but probably doesn't have the same vested interest in your business as you do. They don't necessarily understand time is money. They don't understand that mistakes are money. They don't, the money's not coming out of their pocket, so they don't have that same vested interest and the same drive as what you would have out on that building site. You might have left liaising with clients to the supervisor that's working on site, and he's not doing that too well either, and you're getting more complaints. You might have said to the supervisor to do X, Y, Z on a certain job, and when you check a week or two later, it still hasn't been done. So you make the decision to maybe go get rid of that supervisor and go back to doing everything yourself. So my programs are designed to provide you with the knowledge to scale your business and to not just add overheads that outweigh the cash flow. So the aim of the secure phase is to take you from, I guess, that out of control growth stage and then secure your business, nail it all down and keep it sustainable. So within this secure phase, you'll walk through the 10 founding frameworks, which I've spoken to in previous episodes, in a systematic way that helps you get the control back and secures the business so that you can successfully move on to the, I guess, polishing phase and get your motivation back I guess, to loving your business for what it can provide for you and your family. So I'll go through today 3 of the frameworks within this phase. So the 3 founding frameworks, I guess, in this secure phase will give you clarity into why you started your business and what you wanted to achieve from owning your own business. This process and renewing through this process will give you a renewed sense of energy to keep you moving in your, keeping your business moving forward. Hi, Larissa, how are you going? As you come into the growth phase and then into the secure phase, you probably started to hate your business because of the time that's been, I guess, has been taken away from you and your family. You know, you started your business because you thought you would have more time and you'd be able to pick your own hours, but you soon start to realize that isn't the case, and you're the one that's working the most hours out of everyone, and no one recognizes you doing those hours. You know, you'd go home and quote a couple of hours each night. You'd wake up early and you might be sending orders out in the morning, and people don't see that. So you sort of start to, I guess, hate that and start to think, gee, would it be easier for me to go back and be an employee? So this is where you do start questioning yourself about, you know, do you keep going? Why are you doing this? And how are you going to make it all work? So renewing your reason gives you a kickstart. So not only renewing your reason for yourself, but we'll also dig into the type of clients that you want to focus on working with. You may have realized by now that not all clients are equal. And I guess I don't think we'll ever get away from some of the bad ones, but you certainly can be more intentional with the clients that you choose to work with. Working out, I guess, what keeps you motivated and the types of goals that work to push you forward. So everyone has a different way of staying in momentum. Every individual has a different way that they like to keep track of how they see progress. So builders typically like to see visual progress. They like to see, you know, the house changing through the different stages. But when it gets to a certain stage where they can't really see any visual progress, you know, you get frustrated because you think, when's this project going to end? I just can't seem to get it over the line. Other people like to see numbers on a scoreboard as such. So how many, you know, people might want to see how many people made contact with your business, how many people visited your website today. So you need to find out the way of feeling like you're moving forward, because this is a very important feeling to make you feel like your business is heading in the right direction and to give you the motivation to keep moving that business forward. So working out what pressure you're under as well and how you can relieve the pressure is also going to help you through this phase of your business growth. We do endure a lot in the building industry, and I feel like it's a lot more than other industries. You know, what other industry has a $14,000 fine for not paying an invoice on time? So this is what can happen in Queensland. I'm not sure about the other states, but I'm sure these pressures are the ones that push people within the industry towards suicide. And that's why we do have a higher rate of suicide than probably other industries, because there is so much pressure, you know, coming from all different directions that are felt by the builders, you know, coming from staff, coming from clients, coming from, you know, cash flow, coming from suppliers, family pressures because you're not spending enough time with your kids or your wife, or, you know, so there's all these pressures that get put down onto builders that you've got to, I guess, find a way of understanding what those pressures are and then understanding how to identify what pressure is being put on you so that you can then find a way to relieve it. So one of the other founding frameworks is character. So we delve into, I guess, your own personal conduct and see how that affects your business. And this works hand in hand with the pressures that we experience, because our conduct has a big impact on not only our employees, but it probably has an even bigger impact in our families and the ones that we most love. For our businesses to push through to the next phase of growth, into the polishing stage, it is often our own limiting beliefs that stop us from making it and settling for where we may be at, because and I know that everyone has a bigger purpose, but you might have lost sight on how to get there. So accepting support, particularly at this phase, will pay you back in spades. At this stage, you probably have a really well-established business, and I guess working on those constraints to help you reach the goals will help you push through to liberate yourself from the business. And within the secure phase, you may go back And I guess you not only want to change the type of clients that you're working with, but you may also want to change the market within which you're working. Throughout the capture framework, I work with you on, I guess, capturing the right client for you and your business. Previously, throughout the growth stage, you are more than likely taking on any project just to keep the money rolling in the door. And you may, I guess, now have some data and some more understanding into being able to depict the type of projects that are more profitable for you. And I guess reading that data is important. And all of my programs have been designed to be as custom as the homes that you build. And being able to step into the right phase of business for you is part of that. So, what is the use of, I guess, starting in a program that goes through the basics of business, such as, change your website, get site signage, put signs in your car. I guess you more than likely are established by this secure stage, and you don't need to focus your energy on these types of projects. You've only got so many hours in the day. And if the first thing you go and do when your business is floundering and not doing as well as you want to and not being profitable is go and, spend time getting a designer or designing yourself some site signage, or, if you've been getting the work and you've got plenty of work, that's obviously not necessarily why things aren't working well. You need to look at the right things that are going to actually push your business forward and to make you more profitable. So you want to be able to maximize your time and your work for where you are at in the business. And yes, it is great to have a refresh at times and, refresh your logo or your details and that type of thing. But you want to do things in the right way and at the right times to make your business move forward. So next week, I'll walk you through more of the frameworks that'll help you in securing your business. And until next time, keep powering your business.